तिवारी जी, a simple law.
Big Waqf showdown in Sansad. JPC report becomes a flashpoint. Opposition claims bias, says dissent notes removed.
आप डिसेंट नोट के व्यूज को प्रिंट करके या अपने रिपोर्ट में डाल के बोलना चाहिए, उसको डिलीट करके अगर कोई रिपोर्ट होती है मैं उसको कंडेम करता हूं।
बीजेपी लेवल्स अपीजमेंट चार्ज।
विपक्ष ने बहुत गैर जिम्मेदाराना व्यवहार किया है और इसकी निंदा होनी चाहिए और ये तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति है।
War over Waqf.
Hello and welcome. You watching India Today. I'm Gaurav Sawant. It's a big war over Waqf in Parliament, and that's our top focus story. We will also talk about what's happening in the United States of America, a series of meetings that are scheduled for Prime Minister Narendra Modi ahead of his meeting the US President Donald Trump. What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? We discussed that at 5:30. So there's a massive showdown in Parliament over the JPC report on Waqf reforms. The JPC report on Waqf Amendment Bill was tabled in Rajya Sabha and in Lok Sabha, leading to sloganeering by the opposition and ruckus in Parliament. The Congress made a big claim. The Congress said that opposition's dissent notes have been removed from the JPC report. The centre has hit back at the Congress party, insisting and asserting that no dissent note has been deleted. It is there in the appendix of the main report. Our political bureau with our top story.
Massive showdown over proposed Waqf law.
The old law had 298 sections.
से वक्फ बोर्ड के माननीय सदस्य मिले थे, उनके साथ चर्चा के बाद हुआ है। उनको मैंने मनीष तिवारी जी,
a simple law.
The Joint Parliamentary Committee report on Waqf Amendment Bill was tabled in the upper and lower houses of Parliament, leading to sloganeering, ruckus and walkout.
So there is no simple law.
Parliamentary Affairs Minister has categorically referred in this House to the report.
Sir, I rise to lay on the table a copy of record of evidence given before the Joint Committee on the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 as listed against my name at serial number 3 in today's list of business.
The Congress lashed out, claiming some dissent notes were removed from the JPC report.
मेरे को बड़ा ताजुब लग रहा है। अरे आपको अगर कुछ करना भी है तो आप डिसेंट नोट के व्यूज को प्रिंट करके या अपने रिपोर्ट में डाल के बोलना चाहिए, उसके बजाय उसको डिलीट करके अगर कोई रिपोर्ट होती है मैं उसको कंडेम करता हूं और ऐसे फर्जी रिपोर्ट को हम कभी नहीं मानेंगे, सदन कभी नहीं मानेगा।
आज आप वक्फ की संपत्ति।
The opposition slammed the centre for bringing the Waqf bill, terming it unconstitutional.
विविधता में एकता भारत की विशेषता है सर। अलग अलग धर्म के लोगों को अपनी धार्मिक मान्यताओं के हिसाब से पूजा अर्चना उपासना करने की छूट है। आज आप वक्फ की संपत्तियों को कब्जा कर रहे हैं, कल गुरुद्वारा की करेंगे, फिर मंदिर की करेंगे, फिर चर्च की करेंगे।
ये वक्फ को बचाने के लिए नहीं है, वक्फ को मुसलमानों से छीनने के लिए, बर्बाद करने के लिए ये बिल लाया जा रहा है। तो ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ ये सरकार आइडियोलॉजिकल बुनियाद पर मुसलमानों को अपनी वर्शिप से महरूम करने के लिए, क्योंकि वक्फ मुस्लिम समाज के लिए एक इबादत है। इसमें जो भी रिकमेंडेशंस है तमाम अपोजिशन पार्टीज ने उसका ओपनली पुरजोर उसकी हमने मुखालिफत की है।
विपक्ष के सभी जो मेंबर्स थे इस कमेटी में, उनकी कोई भी बात, जो पॉइंट्स रखे गए विपक्ष के सदस्य द्वारा कमेटी में, तो वो नहीं माने गए हैं और ये मनमाने तरीके से सरकार कहीं ना कहीं ध्यान भटकाने के लिए आखिरी दिन ये बिल लेकर आई है हाउस में।
The government assured that dissent notes will be included in the JPC report.
मैं मेरी पार्टी की ओर से आपको विनती करना चाहता हूं कि विपक्ष के जो डिस्प्यूट्स हैं एक सिर नीर कर आप संसदीय कार्यप्रणालिका के उपयुक्त रूप में जो जोड़ना है वो जोड़े, इसमें मेरी पार्टी को कोई आपत्ति नहीं।
If honorable members read the report and then raise any issue at the time when the bill is reintroduced again by the government. Right now, JPC report has been tabled. What is there to make such a hue cry? संजय सिंह जी, आप तो खुद मेंबर हैं। हाँ, तो खुद मेंबर है JPC में, अपना रिपोर्ट का विरोध कर रही है। कितना ये अफसोस की बात है सर।
The Waqf Bill proposes a complete overhaul of the existing Waqf boards. While 14 amendments proposed by the ruling NDA members were approved, the changes suggested by the opposition MPs were rejected by the JPC. With Piyush Mishra and Aishwarya Paliwal, Bureau Report, India Today.
Very strong words being used both by the government and by the opposition on the Waqf, and there is an intense showdown, and that's very clear. The Congress going to the extent of calling the report farzi or fake, and the government accusing the opposition of minority appeasement politics or Muslim appeasement politics, tushti-karan ki rajniti. That is what the government is accusing the opposition of. But let's try and make sense of this report and the entire controversy around it. Joining me on this special broadcast is Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP. Pradeep Bhati is the spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And for a perspective on the Waqf report and whether reforms are required, Zeenat Shaukat Ali joins me on this broadcast. She is the founder director general of the World Institute of Islamic Studies. So let's get straight to our guests. Tuhin Sinha, respond to the opposition saying, 1. This report is fake, farzi hai. 2. Dissent notes have been removed from this report. So the voice of the opposition is being silenced by the government that's using its numbers.
Well, good evening, Gaurav. Good evening, everybody. You know, there are 39 meetings of JPC which have taken place in the last 6 months starting August, which means more than 6 meetings a month. All the dissenting notes and all the clauses that have been included after discussions are duly incorporated. The dissent notes are in the annexure. Now, this opposition does not read reports. It just, flips through a few pages and then realizes that there is nothing about it. But what all do we mention? The fact that Kalyan Banerjee would break glass, glasses, shishe ka glass would break karte the meeting mein. What all do they want us to mention? Fact is, this Waqf amendment was required for a very long time. There are sweeping changes. For example, the decision to include non-Muslims in the Waqf board, number 1. And number 2, for anybody who donates land to Waqf board, for that person to be a practicing Muslim for 5 years. These are very important steps to arrest the misuse of Waqf board which has been happening.
So let's take this step by step. You've raised certain points. Let me bring in Pradeep Bhati of the Samajwadi Party before I bring in Zeenat Shaukat Ali. Pradeep Bhati, what is the objection? The government says dissent notes are a part of the report. You need to read it. It's there in the appendix. That's point 1. Point 2, the JPC report has only been tabled. Whatever issues the opposition may have, discuss it on the floor of the House.
Hi, good evening to all. Gaurav, we are exactly doing what government scripted for this budget session and did today in Lok Sabha after 14 days. We are distracting and discussing the terrifying, arbitrary and discriminatory report presented in the parliament. The voice of 80 crore people, this is budget session and the health of the economic needs to be discussed. The voice of 80 crore poor people of this country is overpowered by the capitalist mindset of this BJP. And that is why this budget session, Honorable Akhilesh
My question to you was very clearly on what is the opposition objecting about. I asked you a specific question. You want to join a debate on the budget, you should have raised the issue of the budget. It's the opposition that raised the issue of the Waqf report. So I'm talking to you about the Waqf report.
Gaurav, please be patient because the main destruction and which government wants to try to do, let me highlight that also. So please have patience. Let me complete my first few lines and then I'll come to your question and the issues raised by the Tuhin also. The point I was raising that these are all distraction.
Don't get distracted. You stay on the report, stay on the budget
now GPC. Now JPC, the opposition party alleged that the dissent notes have been removed from that. Then why Mr. Nadda and Home Minister was raising this issue that it is the prerogative of chairman to do whatever he wants to include and whatever he wants to do. And at the same time, Home Minister is saying that whatever is missed, we will take all those issues. So if it is so comprehensive report, why they are so confused? And the point and most important point which I want to raise, this government is master of U-turns. I will not start with the Aadhaar, GST and black money. I'll read the Rajya Sabha, the same Waqf Amendment Bill 2013, and on 19th August 2013, I'll just quote what BJP, that time BJP leader Abbas Naqvi ji in the Rajya Sabha said. Let me quote him first. He was referring to the Muslim and non-Muslim that twin raised this point. Okay. I'm raising the same point. इसका मतलब ये है कि आप ये कह रहे हैं कि साहब इस देश में मुसलमानों की अशिक्षा इतनी है, कमजोर इतना बना दिया गया है उन्हें कि वो इस लायक नहीं है कि दूसरा प्रोविजन मीन्स नॉन मुस्लिम्स एंड द गवर्नमेंट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव कि उनको दूसरा प्रोविजन ऐड करना पड़ रहा है। अब ये अमेंडमेंट का दुरुपयोग तो सरकार ही करेगी, जैसे अपनी मर्जी से ऑफिसर्स नियुक्त करेगी, इसी तरह से सरकार वहां पे आदमी बैठाएगी और इससे वक्फ की जो हालत है वो बद से बदतर हो जाएगी। पॉइंट नंबर 1। पॉइंट नंबर 2 ही रेज अबाउट, ये एक बड़ा सवाल है और सवाल इसलिए है कि आज कह रहा हूं कि वक्फ की प्रॉपर्टी का कोई रिकॉर्ड नहीं है। ठीक, ये कोई बात नहीं है कि कितनी प्रॉपर्टी वक्फ के पास है, ये आधा अधूरा है और उसके लिए उन्होंने एक शेर पढ़ा और जो आज भी बड़ा वाजिब है।
आपने मेरे पास शेर सुनने का भी समय इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि मुझे मुद्दों पर रहना और कई मुद्दे हैं एक 20 मिनट के इस डिबेट में, बट आई वांट टू ब्रिंग इन ओके रिस्पॉन्ड टू हिम सिन्हा। द पॉइंट दैट इज बीइंग रेज्ड in opposition, BJP says Waqf does not need reforms and he's quoting Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi. Why are you bringing in non-Muslims, and when in government you're bringing in non-Muslims?
12 years is a very long time. You know, what Naqvi ji said in 2013 may not apply in entirety now, because also the aggrandizement tendencies of Waqf board has increased manifold after the 2013 amendment. So I think, you know, these what he said in 2013 does not exactly hold true now. Fact is that Waqf need drastic reforms because the way they have been usurping properties. Today they have third largest number of properties in the country. We need strict reforms where the damage done by clause
you're leveling a grave charge. You're accusing the Waqf.
Damage done by clause 40 of the 1995 Waqf Amendment Act needs to be undone, because this is land jihad, this is land mafia, and it needs to be curtailed now before, you know, it kind of goes ahead and acquires.
Sir, that's a very grave charge that you level. You're accusing the Waqf of land jihad. But, you know, I'll come to that in just a moment. I want to bring in Zeenat Shaukat Ali into this conversation, and especially on the reforms that are now being introduced, whether women are being introduced on the board or non-Muslims are being introduced on the board. Ma'am, is that wrong? Is that illegal? Where do you stand on this?
Thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me to the show. The first thing that I would like to say is that there are multiple misunderstandings from what I am hearing, you know, regarding who is part of it, who is not part of it, and what that entire act does and how does it benefit or not benefit the Muslim community. So I think those are the misunderstandings that have to be cleared out, and there has to be transparency in doing so. And as you have rightly said, that, you know, when the Waqf Act, you know, the new act that is being, the JPC that has been formulated has to be openly and transparently put in open house and discussed out there so that the pros and cons may be considered. After all, one thing has to be made clear, that this is going to be for the betterment of Muslims, and this is going to be for the betterment of the country as well. So you see, there is this big misunderstanding that this is not going to be for the benefit of Muslims, and that the land of Muslims is going to be taken away from them, and they're going to be at the losing end. And also, the first thing I should have said, that we should not have politics over this.
Okay.
Politicizing an issue that is very, very important and largely concerning the citizens of this country confuses everything. You see, it puts everything off gear. So let's put politics aside.
Important point you raise as I reestablish that link with you and respond to this, Pradeep Bhati. Keep politics aside. It's a reform bill. This is just the JPC report. It has been tabled in Parliament. Read it. Discuss it threadbare in the temple of democracy. The government says the opposition is indulging in Muslim appeasement, Tushtikaran ki rajniti. And if a Muslim woman is saying this is good, it's bringing in reforms, why not debate it?
Gaurav, see, the BJP only motive is to promote communalism. There is, and just in this session also, they want to just run away from the core issues. We are ready to discuss, but when you are doing that, but very cleverly, what BJP spokesperson is saying that we last 12 years, a lot of thing has been changed. So as for the Aadhaar and GST and black money also. I mean, you, for your convenience, you change everything every time. But you haven't allowed me to what Abbas Mukhtar Naqvi said.
Sir, my question to you is, why not debate it in Parliament? Even if you want to read Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi's share, read it in Parliament, let your MP read it in Parliament. My only issue is, why is the opposition... Why is there merit in the government saying opposition is indulging in Muslim appeasement? It does not want to discuss it in Parliament.
No, that will clear, Gaurav, that will clear the air what BJP spokesperson was trying to build. But you are not allowing me to do so. I'll do that in the Parliament. Then there is no point of debating here.
Fair enough. You may choose. I want to discuss on substantive issues, and you are unwilling to engage on substantive issues.
No,
I want to bring in. I want to bring in the BJP spokesperson Tuhin Sinha once again, because I want to understand. The bill today is, the government is now brought in the Waqf bill. Next time they will snatch away land of temples and gurdwaras. That is what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying. Respond to it, Tuhin Sinha.
No, Aam Aadmi Party has no credibility. They're just fear-mongering because they don't have anything better to do. Now, I can explain to you why the specific clauses have been introduced, the inclusion of non-Muslims, because it's a fact that the maximum land usurped by Waqf board has been of non-Muslims. Whether it is a 1,000-year-old temple in a village called Tiruchanderi in Tamil Nadu, whether it is a 500-year-old Gurudwara in a village in Haryana, all of these land have been claimed by Waqf board without any evidence. The same applies to to the land of Christians in Kerala, to the land of Jains in Bangalore. So it is very important to make Waqf board an inclusive board so that when claims are made on the land belonging to other religion, there is adequate representation from people of the other religion to rightly challenge it.
Fair enough. You've made your point. Mr. Bhati, respond to this point and your contention.
Just one small point, Gaurav.
Go on, sir.
Yeah, the major criticism about, because this fear mongering, what BJP spokesperson is trying to get, that the land is grabbed. The basic criticism was about the mismanagement, the corruption, and the encroachment part. And the reforms needs to be done on the digitization part, the audit, and the improve the transparency and legal mechanism needs to be formed. But where BJP has done that, every time they come up with and try to do that fear mongering among the people that all land has been grabbed by the Waqf board, and whatever is left out will be in going future, it will be grabbed. So this comes with the substance that these reforms are being done. You say every time that you have a Quran and computer on the other hand, but you
is there merit in the BJP spokesperson raising the issue of a 1,000-year-old temple which is older than the religion coming to India, older than that, and that is being claimed by Waqf? Is there merit in that point that Tuhin Sinha raises?
That there are courts available that decision. If today I claim that Taj Mahal is mine, it doesn't mean it will be mine.
Okay.
If there is a court, there is legal system in this country.
But is there legal system against Waqf, or that's the point? That's the okay. Tuhin Sinha wants to quickly respond before I
But
bring in Zinat
the
Shaukat.
the Waqf Tribunal is equally shambolic. It is skewed towards the claims being made by the Waqf board. Let me give you a simile to explain the situation. Supposing there is robbery in your home, the onus is not, the onus is on you to prove that, the certain number of gold ornaments existed in your home. It is not on the onus to, the onus is not on the robber to prove himself innocent. The onus is on the complainant to prove that he actually owned that.
I want to bring in Zinat Shaukat Ali on substantive issues of this debate. Is the reform required? Was a JPC required? Now that the JPC report has been tabled, should it be discussed on the floor of the House? Ma'am, is it a good idea to bring in one woman on the board? Is it a good idea, in your appreciation, to bring in non-Muslims into the Waqf board?
See, I'll tell you, yes, I think it has to be debated very transparently, with the pros and cons all put into Parliament, and everyone has to be given a chance to give an opinion on that matter, the parliamentarians, and there has to be a broad consensus on whatever you adopt. Has to be a broad consensus and not, a one-way traffic. That's one thing. The second thing is, as far as non-Muslims coming on the board, for example, there are two boards, that is the Aga Khani board and the Bora board, which are independent boards, and they have their own ruling. And you see, the question becomes that in a democracy, in a secular democracy, there are temple endowments, there are Parsi Panchayat endowments, there are Jain endowments. Now, will you allow others than Jains and others than Parsis and others than of other Muslims to enter into those boards? So when you're considering taking non-Muslims onto this Waqf board, which is a kind of a Muslim endowment, one has to consider that this will apply, there will be a flat rule based on democracy and secularism, that all boards will have this. So you have to make that consideration very carefully. And secondly, you see this argument that has been coming up, that, that the temple land will be usurped, and, other religious grounds land will be usurped. One has to make a clause, a very clear-cut clause that such a thing will not take place. This is what I mean by transparency and argument. You don't have to sit and shout and scream across, for reasons. Put your reasons across. What you are saying has to be for the benefit. What actually you are doing is for the benefit of the people, and not to usurp their land. And there has to be in their heart, they have to be, they don't have to think about this twice. You know what I mean?
That's very interesting the way you put it. And the opposition and the government. Ma'am, that's a very, very pertinent point. Very pertinent point you raised there. And Tuhin Sinha, the point that there was a JPC was take everyone together, listen into dissent, bring in all the points, and then move forward on this. The opposition is saying that the government is trying to ride roughshod over, one, the dissent, putting it in the appendix and not in the main report is one of the points of contention. And two, AIMIM and Asaduddin Owaisi says, आप मुसलमानों को उनकी इबादत करने से रोक रहे हैं.
It's common sense. Why should dissent notes be included in the main text? The main text obviously will carry those clauses which have managed to see the light of the day. So I think the opposition somewhere is logically challenged. The time has come to undo the damage done by the 1995 Waqf Amendment Act. See, those amendments of 1995 were not very straight amendments, and therefore the correction will not be very straight. The correction needs to be drastic. Let me not mince words over here. The correction needs to be drastic if the country is to be saved, and we have made sure that those corrections have been pushed through after following a due democratic process.
Okay. Quickly, Mr. Bhati, the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, I want to understand from you the points that the opposition has. Debate them in Parliament, debate them in a transparent way. The nation will see who's right, who's wrong, and ultimately truth will emerge, sir.
That's right, that it has to be debated in a transparent way. But see the beginning. Mr. Nadda is not aware. Maybe Tuhin is aware what is there in the notes or not. Why then he is saying that it's the prerogative of chairman? First point number one. Second point about this is not the first time that there is a select committee or JPC report on the Waqf board. Why I stated Abbas Naqvi's name was he was the select committee chairman from the BJP side. That means his voice was the BJP's voice. It's not his individual voice. Okay. So that's understand. He was also talking on the same thing. Third point, if you come with the reforms, then take everybody into consensus that we are bringing these. All the communities needs to be bring into consensus. You cannot bulldoze everything on your own and try to make your own laws as per your requirement.
Okay, the opposition calls the report Farzi. The government accuses the opposition of Muslim appeasement politics. Clearly, this isn't the last that we've heard of this part of the debate. Ma'am, okay, last 30 seconds before I take a break. Zinat Shakatari, go on, ma'am.
I just thought, sir, that, Gaurav, that I'd like to bring this point that, you know, what the gentleman just said about the word drastic. You know, drastic reforms. I think that is a very strong word that can be very misleading. So when you are looking at a reform, it has to be for the benefit of the people of the country, for the benefit of everyone around. For the, you know, and you don't have to make it political. So this is what my submission is.
Fair enough. We'll now wait for the debate in Parliament. I've run out of time on this part of the show. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me.
All eyes on Modi-Trump villain. Mega meet within 30 days of Trump 2.0. Warm welcome for Prime Minister in DC. Stage set for the big bilateral. What's next in US-India relations? Top focus on 5 Live.
And news just coming in, DOD chief in the United States of America, Elon Musk, he's now one of the top US government officials, if I may, the way he's going after government machinery to clean up the system. Starlink chief, Tesla chief Elon Musk will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is a meeting that is scheduled at 10 p.m. IST. We are told that Vivek Ramaswamy will also be coming to Blair House to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as will the US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. He'll also be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So a series of meetings scheduled for Prime Minister Narendra Modi before he meets US President Donald Trump at the White House. There's a bilateral meeting, there's a restricted format meeting, then there's a delegation level meeting, and this is the first meeting that's taking place within weeks of Donald Trump being sworn in as the President of the United States of America. And this is a very, very clear indication of the importance that both United States and India attach to this comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. During Trump 1 era, the relationship had really moved forward, and especially on multiple issues, including Quad and the Indo-Pacific. Now it remains to be seen how this relationship is taken to the next level. Yes, there are challenges, but there are also opportunities, and we'll talk about that in greater detail. But what had Donald Trump, the Tesla chief, the Dodge head, the Department of Government Efficiency head, Elon Musk said about Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier? Listen in.
I like him quite a lot. He visited our Fremont factory several years ago, and so we've now known each other for a while. I am a fan of Modi, so I have to say that. Well, I'm actually incredibly excited about the future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world. He really cares about India because he's pushing us to make significant investments in India, which it is something that we intend to do.
So, Donald Trump's big election message that saw him return to the White House after a gap of 4 years was Make America Great Again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a strong votary of Make in India. So, is there common meeting ground, or will there be many challenges because tariff remains a huge issue between America and India? Donald Trump has called India tariff king. At the same time, both of them are close friends. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump. I've covered both Howdy Modi in Houston, Texas, and Namaste Trump at Ahmedabad, Gujarat. How does this relationship now get taken forward? What's the big focus on? Energy requirements, defense requirements, illegal immigration remains a big niggle, trade is a big issue. But there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. I get you more in this report.
It's the most awaited meetup of the year. Prime Minister Modi is in Washington, D.C. for a 2-day visit to meet with US President Donald Trump. The first in less than a month since Trump began his second term in office. The Prime Minister is staying at Blair House, a luxurious and historic guest lodging for the dignitaries visiting the White House. Narendra Modi received a warm welcome by the diaspora in the winter chill. The Prime Minister's visit aims to strengthen the bilateral relationship, especially in areas like trade, defense, and technology.
The areas that I think are cutting edge right now and important to everybody. Some core things like air platforms. India wants to upgrade its air force. Some core capabilities like ground combat vehicles. But really the new areas are in space, in undersea technology, in autonomous technologies. These are areas where you see a willingness and an enthusiasm about really pushing the envelope, and I think we're going to see developments in all of that.
With concerns in New Delhi regarding Washington's America First trade agenda, a key priority for Prime Minister Modi will be to avoid punitive trade actions against India. Both leaders may explore a trade pact to avoid high tariffs and expand trade.
Thank you very much. The Prime Minister's visit tomorrow, and I will let the President discuss the details on the reciprocal tariff front. But this is something he believes strongly in, and it's very simple logic as to why the President wants to impose reciprocal tariffs. It's the golden rule, which we all learned when we were growing up in school. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And far too many nations around this world have been ripping off the United States of America for far too long, and that's why the President believes this will be a great policy that will benefit American workers and improve our national security.
Soon after landing, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Tulsi Gabbard, the newly confirmed US Director of National Intelligence. He congratulated Gabbard on her confirmation. Prime Minister took to X to say that they discussed various aspects of the India-US friendship, of which Tulsi Gabbard has always been a strong votary. All eyes are now on the big Trump-Modi Milan, the 8th meeting since Donald Trump's first presidency in 2017.
Tulsi Gabbard now coming and meeting Prime Minister Modi at a time when the Indian agencies have been battling allegations against them and their officials by US authorities, and more importantly, what's going to become of Indo-US ties under Donald Trump and the Indian Premier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In Washington, D.C., Geeta Mohan for India Today.
And US President Donald Trump has just posted on Truth Social, he said 3 great weeks, perhaps the best, but today is the big one. Reciprocal tariffs make America great again. He's posted this ahead of his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Truth Social. He says 3 great weeks. So it's been 3 weeks since he was sworn in as the President of the United States of America. Perhaps the best. But today is the big one. Reciprocal tariffs make America great again. I want to quickly cut across to India. Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining me with the latest from Washington, D.C. Geeta, it's extremely cold in the United States of America. But what should one make of this what should one make of this message?
Well, not a rather cold welcome for Prime Minister Modi, and the meetings spell out the importance of India and India-US ties. The first meeting with the top official was with Tulsi Gabbard. Gaurav, and it happened just hours after she took oath in the presence of President Donald Trump. She went and met called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And they are speaking of, and they did speak about intelligence sharing and real-time intelligence sharing. This comes at a time that there have been so many allegations against certain officials in the Indian intel agencies, and we'll have to see now how things pan out for India vis-a-vis these cases. Having said that, there are three very important meetings that are lined up this morning. The National Security Advisor, NSA Waltz, again, Doe chief, but also call him the Tesla chief,
yes.
Starlink, a lot of things that we'd like to do, that India would like to do with Elon Musk. Those conversations could come up. Not the first time that the two are going to meet. Elon Musk met with Prime Minister Modi in his previous visits as well. A lot of focus on whether if they can cooperate on the Starlink front, sorry, as also on the having Tesla come to India. So we'll await those conversations. Okay. But yes, there could be a conversation on what Doge really means and how the Indian Premier also has been focusing on making his government efficient. And then Vivek Ramaswamy, a man who has spoken highly of India, particularly Indians, Gaurav, much to the chagrin of some of the hardcore Republicans. And then there was an entire Twitter war between him and those influencers, Laura Loomer particularly, but somebody who really focuses and pitches for Indians, hard-working Indians working in the United States of America. These are the meetings that are lined up in the morning, which will be followed by the also important bilateral meeting.
What should we make of this big message? Today is the big one. Trump's message just before the meeting. Geeta, stay with me for a moment. Professor Brahmachalani joins us on the show. Dr. Tara Kartha also with me on the show. Professor Brahmachalani, what do you make of this message on Truth Social? 3 great weeks. Today's the big one. There are conversations on tariffs.
Well, the tariffs are broader. They are international in terms of their scope. But I think the concern in India that these tariffs are going to hit the Indian economy really hard, that concern is a bit exaggerated, because if you look at the trajectory of India's average tariff rate, it has come down from about 120 in the early 1990s to less than 5% currently in relation to imports from the US. So India can handle, Indian economy can handle these reciprocal tariffs that Trump is about to impose. In fact, people don't seem to keep in mind that the biggest imports from the US are hydrocarbons, weapons, and gems.
Yes.
On which, on the first two, there are no tariffs. So looking at the larger picture, I think this concern about reciprocal tariffs and how they're going to hit India very hard should be seen in context of the actual trade, what India trades with the US, and I think this is manageable. The most important thing, I think, is that for Trump and Modi is to restore this relationship.
Yes.
Restore the relationship that was thriving in Trump's first term, but came on this train during Joe Biden's presidency.
And I'll come to that in
momentum,
just a moment. You're absolutely right. It needs to be repaired. Issues of the deep state and what was happening towards the end of Joe Biden's tenure has been a cause for grave concern, especially in India and especially amongst the strategic community. But stay with me, Professor Chilani. Dr. Tarak Artha, what Donald Trump has just put out on Truth Social, is this meant more for America's internal audience, because he's come on the platform of Make America Great Again. He's talked about tariffs. How much does it actually impact India, or does this impact his own people more, that he's sending out a message, I'm firm? He's called India tariff king in the past.
Yeah, it is obviously something to do with his domestic audience as well. And I mean, this was expected, right? It's not like it was something new that we didn't think would happen. It's not just against India alone. So it's not India targeting by any means. But we've had problems in the past, especially where wheat was concerned, where we didn't, last year when we had a drop in wheat production, we could not export as much as we normally did. So this year also, if you look at the US agricultural, the office, they've predicted that our wheat production could take a hit. So these are small problems which take place. There are marginal tariffs on oil imports, very marginal. So that's not an issue. All you need to is up it, which I think they're already going to do. So that's already in the works. And I think Delhi has been very, upfront in dealing with this before it comes. Before the issue arises, they go out and try and deal with it by, like we said, in reducing tariffs earlier itself in the budget. There's a whole slab has been taken out.
Yes.
So those, nonetheless, I think the fact that he hopefully will not want to make it into a public issue to burnish his first 100 days, the first 100 days of Trump, that could be a factor regardless of what there is on the ground.
Okay, because a lot of this is optics for his domestic audience. This is the second time he's been elected president. He wants to leave a legacy. But what are the biggest challenges? What would be India's big challenges today in your appreciation, Professor Chilani?
I think the big challenge for India is to ensure that US policy in relation to countries in India's immediate neighborhood is in sync with India's interests rather than working against India's interests. That's the primary concern for India, that under Joe Biden, we saw how US policy toward Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Pakistan became antithetical to Indian interests. That has to change, because if US and India are going to be close strategic partners, building a stable balance of power in Asia, they need to work together in India's own neighborhood. The US can't be working against India's interests and expecting India to contribute to Asian and international security. So the reason why, it's very significant that Modi's first meeting was with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is going to be very important now, because there are these issues that are left over from the Biden administration, the two politically sticky indictments, one against Gautam Adani, one against a former Indian intelligence officer, then the issue of Bangladesh, the issue of providing arms to Myanmar rebels. This is where Tulsi Gabbard can play a helpful role, because she understands the importance of India in the larger scheme of things, and I think even Trump understands why the relationship with India is critical.
Very important points that you're raising there. Do you agree, Dr. Tarak Artha, the big challenges for India to ensure foreign policy is in sync? Would US policy towards China be a cause for concern, or are we seeing a different, what's happening with vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine is in sync with what our thinking is? How do you see this meeting pan out?
I think in terms of Russia, Ukraine, yes. I mean, if he's already reached out towards Ukraine, he wants to end the war. That war has hurt us in multiple ways. So, it's not just about, Russian defense deals. There's a whole economic impact which we really suffered from. So an end there is great. In terms of China, I'll tell you, he's going to make the noises about, I had this great meeting and all the rest of it will continue. But there's a fundamental aspect to even Trump's first national security, his national security document, is that the US must remain the primary power. Yes. That will not change, no matter who comes, actually. So that is, there is no question of accommodating China. So I don't know how people say, oh, you don't know how. They will not let China come up. It's against basic US policy. The question is, how will they do it? And that is where we may have a slight difference because, well, they may want you to have a more proactive approach on China, which I don't know how this is going to go forward.
But for that, we have to be better armed and with the latest weapons to be stronger. And that would mean closer cooperation on defense, trade and technology and high-end technology. Do you see forward movement on that, Professor Chilani? We are still waiting for the General Electric engines for our fighter jets. Do you see forward movement on that, manufacturing of those engines in India, or is that a pipe dream as of now?
India is seeking to move from importing weapon systems to co-production so that industrial capacity and jobs are created in India. And that's where the real challenge is, because in terms of arms imports, India is already the world's largest importer of arms. And given the fact that India's overall trade deficit has widened to such an extent that it's depreciating the rupee, it's having a very adverse impact in general on the economy. You can't keep buying billions of dollars worth of weapons without seeking to bolster your own economic strength at home. That's where I think the big challenge lies for the Modi government is to, for example, Trump has emphasized that India buy more hydrocarbons and buy more American weapons. But these two are already the biggest items in India's trade with the US. So there isn't much room, even though there might be a deal or two, a big deal coming out of, not this visit maybe, but coming in the coming months, there might be a big defense deal or two. But looking ahead, there isn't much room for India to keep buying weapons off the shelf. India has to persuade the US to co-produce weapon systems in India.
Absolutely. Whether that happens with France, whether that happens with Russia, or that happens with the United States of America, co-production in India is that big aspect. And though I've run out of time on this part of the show, Professor Chilani and Dr. Tara Kartha, but through the evening today and till 2:30 in the morning, when that meeting takes place on India Today, we will continue to get you the latest on this very important meeting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi also talks about shouldn't just impact India and America positively, but should have a greater impact on the entire world. That's what we'll be tracking closely.